All right. Well, welcome everyone to EdChange Global. We are excited to be here. My name is Katherine Goyette, and I'm here with
Adam Juarez.
That's right. And we are today talking about coaching. This is one of our passions, is coaching specifically for EdTech, but really coaching in general.
That's right.
So should we go ahead and get started?
Let's do it.
All right. Excellent. So let me share my screen here. There we go. Excellent. All right. So here is all of our contact information. Like I said, my name is Katherine Goyette, and I am currently an educational technology integration consultant out of Tulare County Office of Education. So I work with a lot of different school districts, mostly smaller, K-12, coaching teachers and administrators in technology integration. Prior to that, I was at a single school site coaching for elementary school.
And I'm Adam Juarez, Tech Integration Coach for Cutler-Rossi Joint Unified School District, small rural district out in Central California in the same county where Katherine works. And my job is to work with grades 6 through 12 to help teachers integrate tech into their lessons and train students on a variety of apps.
Absolutely. This is all our contact information. Please feel free to reach out. You can tweet us. We're big on Twitter.
That's right.
And those are our websites as well, where we include blogs, posts, and things that we've been doing with students and teachers. All right, let's go ahead and get going. This is actually a picture here. The reason I put this picture in for the first slide here is to show that when we are coaching, we're not just doing sit and get PD with teachers, we're actually in classrooms.
Yeah, we're like to say boots on the ground.
That's right. So this is actually an image of that happening in real time. It was featured on a local news segment that we did. But let's start with some statistics here.
Well, let's start with the actual title of this session. Coaching Trumps PD, we're going to make professional learning great again. So this right here, this GIF is great. Usually this GIF, when you see it online, it's like, how you feel when you're raising daughters, which I can empathize. But, if you're spending money in professional development, this pretty much feels the same way, because a word we're going to use a lot is sit and get, where the consultant, the expert comes in, talks at your teachers for a few hours, and then they're expected to go out and implement. And you're going to find that very little gets done in that kind of a model. Our job is to be boots on the ground, coaching in classrooms, working alongside teachers, maybe looking for a co-teaching model rather than just that sit and get model.
Because otherwise we are just throwing money away, right? Because it's not going to be effective. So here's some just data if you are looking at this model and need to talk to your administrators or district about why this works. So we just kind of wanted to share that. All right. Also, this is brain science. What we've learned on the left there, you'll see the three areas of the brain that are involved in learning, according to Universal Design for Learning and the CAST.org. Go ahead and check that out if you are more interested in the neuroscience behind learning. But basically, if we don't have context to connect our learning to as learners, then it's not going to be sustainable. So if there's sit and get PD and I don't know as a teacher how that fits into specifically what my classroom looks like, what I'm teaching, my grade level, my content that I'm teaching, then it's not going to be sustainable, and that learning isn't going to stick. It's not going to be sticky learning. So in order for us to make those connections, if we are actually in the classrooms with teachers, then that learning will stick and that implementation is going to be that much greater.
Yeah, the same thing is we teach kids. When we're teaching kids, we're always told put things in context, make them feel like their personal experience is valid in the learning. They need to know why they're learning it and how it connects to them. Yet we don't do that with teachers. So we expect the teachers to do that with students, but not in professional development.
Right, and that needs to change. And we've noticed also it's more fun to be in classrooms. I mean, you don't want to become a coach to get away from kids. We went into this profession because we have a passion for student learning and for making a difference with kids. And if we are stuck in our office preparing PD all the time, and then just delivering it to teachers, we are not going to be inspired by those students, which is why we're there in the first place. So this is a video that goes over a little bit of what we've done.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and play it, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the sound here.
They put me out of a job.
Adam Juarez is a technology coach at El Monte Middle School in Orosi.
We start giving students email accounts in the kindergarten.
He's helping kids and their history teacher navigate Google My Maps on their Chromebooks.
Chromebook, you could search up more information than a book.
While some teachers embrace technology in class, others are a little old school.
When they start to see the benefits of how students are more engaged and how it makes them more efficient as teachers or as educators in general, then my phone starts ringing a lot more.
Science teacher Mindy Pena converted to a digital classroom and saw big improvements in benchmark scores and behavior.
Last year was a really rough year. The discipline was out of control. But when I brought out the computers and when they understood how the process went, the format, everybody was on task. It changed my year. It saved me.
Tech coaching empowers teachers to create environments where students can create content, not just consume it.
I feel more confident, and the students are well aware of the expectations, and so as they're using it, I'm monitoring, and it's been great. So I will use technology every day if I can.
The goal is to lead with learning, not the technology itself.
I think that we can use technology to break down the walls of the classrooms and connect students and businesses all across the world.
Educators are sharing what they've learned on regional Twitter chats at #CBTechTalk, and they use #ClassroomCribs to get ideas on redesigning learning spaces.
All right, so just a little background about what we're about and kind of where we're going with this session.
But as you could see, there were no PD sessions that were featured on that quick clip. Instead, it was being in the planning process with teachers, kind of one-on-one, talking about what specifically their lesson plan is and how we can integrate the tech and help them, coach them through that. And then, of course, in classrooms as well.
You saw one of the teachers in there, Gladys, who actually showed us as a team planning a lesson with her. It was actually, we were planning a lesson that we co-taught later. So again, we're boots on the ground, we're working alongside, not talking at teachers.
Mm-hmm. You also noticed Mindy was a bit resistant to technology at the beginning.
She was one of my big resistors and pretty much didn't want me anywhere near her, but once she saw the benefits, I had to be patient with her. Mm-hmm. But once I got her on, she's the kind of person that was a leader on campus, and when people start seeing her jump on board, then all of a sudden, as I said in the video, my phone rang off the hook.
Yeah, because if you just talk at her, it's not going to work. If you show her how it works with the kids, mm-hmm. that's what's effective. So how do we do that? How do we be in classrooms when we have so much to do?
We like to be what we call a walking coach. We're big fans of The Walking Dead. So we think you need to be a walking coach. You got to be a walker. You got to be mobile. You got to be out there. One of our biggest goals, things we push, is that as a coach, you should be in classrooms and working with kids 80% of the time. Only 20% of the time should you be, in the background, in the shadows, prepping. But you should be boots on the ground 80% of the time.
Absolutely. We don't want to be like Mr. Incredible was here when he wasn't doing his superpower work.
That's right. Our
superpower is best when we are in classrooms affecting students. So how do we do that? Because I know you have a lot of work to do, right? Adam, how much do you feel like you have a lot that you need to do as far as computer work and answering emails and things like that?
It never ends.
It never ends. Agreed. So something that we have done is to do that work, so to speak, answering the emails, working on scheduling, whatever happens to be, even preparing PDs that our district wants us to do in classrooms, sitting in classrooms and doing that work there. That also makes us visible. Now, I'll be honest, make sure you do this with teachers you have trust with first and let them know that you are there just to be with kids and just to be watching what they're doing. You don't want to be seen as an evaluator. If you haven't warned teachers ahead of time that this is a new thing that you're going to be trying, that you're going to be in classrooms more, and you walk in with your computer and you start typing, they may think you're typing about them.
That's right.
Remember what it's like to be a teacher. Remember when someone walks in, your anxiety level goes up.
Yeah, so it all goes down to that relationship you've built, communication with those teachers. And again, have a laptop, we'll travel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I refuse to ever use a desktop. I don't even have a desk. So
Yeah.
the whole entire school site is my desk.
Yeah, I gave up an office because it was a remodel. Gave up my office. It was the best thing I could have done. Best thing. It's also great for job security because if you're in your office all day long, teachers wonder what you're doing.
That's right.
They wonder if you're even making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you there? So what about getting into the classroom? Because what about those teachers that you don't have as much trust with and don't want you in there? Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about being forgetful, Adam?
Well, yeah, I've been known to be very absent-minded, and I can sit there and see that as a flaw, but I'm going to put that to work for me. My absent-mindedness, I learned, has helped me get into classrooms. So being purposefully forgetful. So when I visit a classroom, and I know I want to get back soon and have a conversation, especially if I was observing and I know I want to talk to that teacher afterwards and not when students are around. I mean, how do I get in there? I need to have a reason. So I've been known to leave my sunglasses behind, which means, hey, they're going to call me later. Hey, you left your glasses. You didn't come back. Well, that was the point. Same thing with my coffee mug. Usually it's the coffee mug that really gets people, it alerts them more than the sunglasses. It's a little more conspicuous. But what it does, it makes those teachers, they have to call me back. Hey, you forgot something. So that's a little trick that kind of happened by accident that I've kind of developed, and it's worked. Really find something you can leave behind. It gives you a reason to get back in there. But we also like to be unforgettable. One of the first mandates I had when I became a tech coach 4 years ago, we were moving into Google Apps. And the first thing they said, we got to get everybody on board with Google. They need to learn how to do Gmail and the basic stuff with Drive and Docs and Slides, etc. So I booked dates with all these teachers, and I was, every day in the classroom working with those students, teaching them the ins and outs. But, I could have just sat there, okay, here, do this, do that, do this, do that. Yeah, that's boring. So, I kind of tried to jazz it up as much as I could, but I gave an incentive at the very end. One of the things one of my traditions I do after a session, whether I'm working with kids or teachers, I do a end of the class selfie. And what I would do, I just took some butcher paper and I printed out in some of the logos for the different Google apps, and I would put it up on the wall, and I said at the end, you guys get to do a selfie booth and take pictures, and I would take their pictures and post them on the school Instagram, and the kids thought that was awesome. They're posing, and they would see me around campus and oh yeah, when you coming back? When you coming back? So if the kids are asking for it, how can the teacher say no to that?
It's a lot easier to say, oh, sorry, Catherine, sorry, Adam, I don't really want you coming in my class. I'm too busy. But when the kids, hey, when's the tech coach coming back? When are they coming back? That's going to be, like you say, harder to say no to.
And I tell the kids, we'll tell your teacher.
That's right.
I'm not going to tell them, but you tell them. That's a greater chance of me getting back in there.
Right, and we've seen that work. That worked for me at the elementary level, and that works for you at the secondary level as well. So that's definitely all grade levels. I did want to let you know that if anyone has any questions, I am monitoring the live chat on the EdChange Global website. So feel free to ask questions or provide comments on there. All right, so another thing, we talked a little bit about being seen as on the same team. In other words, we're not evaluators.
That's
right? And so that's one of the things that really makes a big difference with getting into the classroom. Do you want to talk a little bit about this GIF here, Adam?
Yeah, what you see there's a GIF from the infamous, depending on your preference of football team, but the infamous or famous Music City Miracle started with a lateral right there. So when I first started as a tech coach, I was seen as an evaluator. I was seen as, I joined the dark side. I was an admin, and I had to let them know that, I'm not admin. I am a teacher too. I'm on the same contract you are. And that's one of the first things that started to get me some success at getting into classrooms and getting teachers to trust me, was that they know that I'm lateral to them. I'm not above them, not below them. I'm on the same level. And, it's very easy for an administrator to kind of use a coach, tech coach or not, any kind of instructional coach, as a quasi-administrator. And it's really easy to get seen that way. So as soon as you can set the tone where you're seen as, I'm still a teacher, I'm not this quasi-administrator, even though I'm kind of more of like a liaison between teachers and administrators, but I am on a teacher salary. I have no authority to evaluate you. That's not my job. I'm here to work with you. So again, it's a lateral move. You have to really establish that. One of the first things you do when you become a coach.
I would say too, if we have any viewers that are administrators, even so, I've known principals, not too many, it's rare, but I've known principals that have gone into classrooms and helped teach a lesson, still co-taught with teachers. When there was I know there was a first-year teacher that was struggling to teach money to her second graders, counting money. And so the principal went in there and, tried to model it and teach a lesson. And you know what happened, Adam?
What happened?
It didn't go well. They didn't get it with him either. But I was in that, I was speaking with the teachers afterwards, and they were so amazed. They felt like, this is someone that's willing to do the work with me, that doesn't think they're better than me, that feels like, it makes me feel like I'm on the same team as them. And so that relationship was really built, that trust was built. And so now that administrator would walk into those classrooms all the time, and the teachers didn't feel judged. They felt supported, and that's a big thing. It's also important to praise your people. There's different ways that we can do that. But that's huge. I know there was a coach I knew that would literally give a thumbs up as he would leave the classroom. I was doing a walkthrough and saw him just give a big thumbs up to a couple of his teachers, and they just beamed. They just smiled. For me, I know we're tech coaches, but I like to give actual physical Post-its. I know Adam does the same sometimes. We have kind of a mix of tech and non-tech feedback that we give, but always positive, especially if you're trying to build that trust with teachers. If I'm going to make a suggestion, if I haven't built the trust yet, I'm going to be all positive first. And it doesn't have to be related to tech either, by the way.
That's right.
So another one, you got to be personal. I gave out my cell phone number. I know Adam does as well. That's up to you. But when you do something like that, teachers feel like, okay, this is someone that actually is available to me and actually will help me out and support me when I am looking for support.
So think of how powerful that is. You're giving something very personal, like your cell phone number. You're opening yourself up. That really kind of breaks down the walls of I guess the word is, I guess the walls built by anxiety, and they're really more likely to really try to work with you. So something that simple. Again, that it's a personal decision, something that you got to choose to do or not. There's other ways to connect, which we will also talk very soon.
That's right. Oh, and look at this. Thank you, Catherine, for the tweet. Just want to let you know that we are watching anyone. If you tag us on Twitter with any questions, I'll get them a notification right away, and we can answer your questions in real time. So thank you, Catherine Marvia. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. If not, I apologize. Some others that are Amy's on the webinar here too. So welcome. And like I said, tweet us if you have any questions, and we'll definitely answer them in real time here. So tools for efficiency, in order for us to be in classrooms, I know when I first started doing this, I had to learn, when are teachers at PE? When are their kids at PE? When are they on prep? When are the recesses or the breaks, or when do they have prep? So what we learned to do, when I was at a small school site, I put the schedule on the back of my name badge, and then pretty soon I memorized it. But you can techify this as well. Adam, talk about how you've done this.
Well, what I've done, we have at the middle school and high school where we have a variety of bell schedules. So every year they get tweaked a little bit. And what I do, once they've been approved for the next year, I'll go in the summer. I'll go into the Google Calendar, and I'll input them the dates. The times and dates for all these different ones for which days of the week, and they repeat. I set up for the whole year. It takes a little bit of setup. But then I have it saved in Google Calendar, and I have each period is designed to be alerted 3 minutes before the end. So I know, if I'm in the classroom teaching, I have 3 minutes to wrap this up. Or if I know if I'm out walking classroom, like, so it's only 3 minutes, maybe I won't walk in that class at the very end. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll wait till the beginning of the next period.
Because teachers don't like that.
Yeah, because they may be wrapping something up. So. It takes a little bit of time to set it up, but once you set up a Google Calendar, and you can share that calendar with staff members who are interested, and it helps them as well. Mm-hmm. So I always know. I just have to glance at my phone very quickly and I can see, okay, what time is it and which period's going on. And in the notes section of the calendar event, I like to put a list of the last names of the teachers who are on prep that period. That also helps.
Yeah.
So just one way to really make you more efficient and leveraging the power of Google.
So it's great to know when teachers are in classrooms, when they have students, but as Adam said, it's also great to know when they have preps. And so that's what this image on the right is about, is when you know when they're planning. Sometimes it's nice to be able to be to catch them on their prep, catch them when they're planning, so that you can provide some on-site job embedded coaching that way as well. We talked a little bit about feedback, but I want to talk a little bit more. One of our older teachers who was not too techie but was willing to learn, I walked through her classroom, and what I did is I had a notification, a form where I would provide feedback, and every time I would click submit on the form, then it would immediately email the teacher. And so I found out later that this teacher contacted one of the other teachers and said, "Oh, it's like magic. Katherine leaves my classroom and I get an email. I get a ding on my cell phone, and I found out it's an email every time." And but really, it's not magic; it's automation. So,
right.
Adam, do you want to talk a little bit more about the specifics of how to do that in Google? If you have Microsoft, we would recommend that you contact Lamar Treadwell on.
Right.
Or other MIEs, but go ahead and talk about the Google hack here.
Yeah, so we like to use Google Forms, and what I do, I simply automating feedback needs to happen as quick as possible. The quicker you give the feedback, the better. Don't try to wait for them and try to catch them some other time, because something will come up and you won't, and then you'll forget. And you could just send them an email later on, but when you get back, you may think, okay, you look at your notes and then you type it up and then you send it to them, and some time has elapsed. The sooner you get that feedback to them, the better. Google Forms is a way to make it instantaneous. So I walk in with my laptop or a tablet, and I have a form set up with 3 questions. The first question, it's all for me. It's what I saw. I'm just being observant, completely objective. Then I have things for how it could be improved. Just suggestions for how because I'm a tech coach, how I could tech this up, and maybe see some potential suggestions for improvement. And the third one would be the next steps. So I have it set up using an add-on for Google Sheets called Form Mule. So it's the word form, F-O-R-M, and then M-U-L-E, all one word. Search that in the add-ons for Google Sheets. And what it allows you to do, you can set it up where when you hit submit on that form, after you fill out the questions, actually, even before I get to the questions, I have a drop down of all the teachers. So I just click on their name and I click on their email. And then when I hit submit, it sends them what I wrote down. Instant. I haven't even left the room, and it's that quickly. So they can, if they look at their computer, boom, I got an email. Oh, I got a notification on my phone. So it's fresh in their memory instead of having to think about it and receive that email later.
And what's great about this, as opposed to PD, right, is that this is based on what they actually were doing, what's actually happening in the classroom. And it's in real-time feedback. They get it immediately. So, and it's personalized because it's based on the context of their classroom, their subject area, exactly what they were teaching, their instructional style and everything.
Sure.
So that's why it's so powerful. I would say too, the other good thing is you can decide, you can have fields where there's information just for you, so that they don't see everything you put on the form. So I used to have one section where I would put comments just to remind myself, hey, I need to follow up with that teacher because there was a little glitch with Google Classroom. I need to teach them about such and such. Well, they don't need to hear that, but I need to know that, okay, this is something I need to do. So that's what's nice as well, is you can really customize that portion.
Yeah, if Formula, the first time you ever look at it, it may make you go a little cross-eyed. It takes there's a little bit of a learning curve. Once you learn to use Formula, it's pretty easy. So in the meantime, while you're trying to figure out Formula, there's a couple hacks that I would suggest to get started. Have a Google Doc that you keep as a template, and then with the emails already listed on there, and then you have the teacher names and your however whatever questions of what the data you've collected from your observation, and then just copy and paste it and drop it into an email and make sure you email that teacher before you leave.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not ready to automate it through Formula yet, you're not ready for it, just do it through Docs and then type it up, copy, paste, boom.
Absolutely. All right. So another thing that's really helpful, we both now serve quite a few teachers.
That's right.
And it's hard to be everywhere at once. And so that's why a lot of times districts will ask for PD because they feel that that's most efficient. Mm-hmm. What we've learned, though, is that there's better ways to do this because some things, those things that we cover in PD are not contextual and personalized, and they're things that we can get that information to right away through screencasts, for example. So if a teacher, especially if more than one teacher is asking me a question about how to join Google Classroom or how to get Blogger started or something like that, if I create a screencast and send it to them, that's going to be much more effective.
So on this slide, what we're talking about is leveraging the power of Hangouts, because I serve 3 school sites and I can't be at all 3 at once, but I can be at one site and talk to anybody through Google Hangouts. And if you're a Microsoft district, you may be using Skype, or someone, mm-hmm. You're an Apple district, you're using FaceTime. And I'm a Google district, so we're using Hangouts, and a teacher's like, hey, I need help. I'm like, I can't be there, but hey, let's hook up through Hangouts so I don't have to drive across town. Let's go to Hangouts and tell me what your question is. We can video chat and then share me your screen through Hangouts. Tell me what you don't know how to do, and I'll talk you through it. So Hangouts really allows me to be in multiple places at once. You'd have a ton of people watching at the same time.
All right. Also, another thing that's really helpful is being a co-teacher in someone's Google Classroom.
That's right.
We have a lot of teachers, the first time that they try to integrate technology, they're scared. And they aren't quite sure how to add assignments. They aren't quite sure if they added the assignment correctly, if they have the sharing permissions appropriate and such. And so something that I always do, especially with those teachers, is say, let me be a co-teacher in your classroom, and I will have just as many permissions as you do, and I will be able to fix anything that was wrong. I can provide comments to students and really be more involved in the process virtually. So we're still coaching. We're still doing a personalized contextual approach, but it is through virtual means.
That's right. What Katherine was speaking to is more about the way you would use it to support a teacher. But when we say they add you as a co-teacher, which means you have the same permissions as that teacher, except you can't delete the classroom. But when we say be a co-teacher, actually be a co-teacher. As an instructional coach, co-teaching actually in the classroom is what you want. And Google Classroom really makes that so much easier. So you can be, like you said, giving the feedback and being part of the grading. And what that's going to do is going to build trust with that teacher, and you're going to build rapport with a lot more kids.
Absolutely. This is also great for those teachers that say, I opened up Google Classroom and now the kids are posting inappropriate things and I don't know what to do. And so being able to help with those supports and make comments to the students makes them feel a lot more comfortable as well. So a lot of times, tech coaches, when they're not doing PD, or any coaches for that matter, instructional coaches, when they're not doing PD, they wait for appointments. They wait for teachers to say, hey, will you come into my room? But we want to talk about when we first start our coaching experience, we want to use the group to move the group. So we are going to walk classrooms, go where we're requested, and start developing a cult following, so to speak. So Adam, did you want to talk a little bit about how you've developed a cult following and how that's helped at your site?
Yeah, for about 8-9 years now, I've been in a program here out in California that pairs veteran teachers with brand new teachers, and you mentor them for 2 years, called BITSA. I think it's changed since then, but that's what we used to call it. And every year I was given 1 or 2 new teachers to kind of mentor, and it's a really cool program. And when I became a tech coach, I'm like, all right, who's the teachers that will kind of indulge me first? And I said, well, those teachers that I've mentored, I can go to them. And they were very willing and open because obviously I already had that rapport with them. So I started working with them first, and slowly but surely the buzz about, the quality that I brought to their classroom started to build, and more teachers were getting involved. So you, again, use the group to move the group. So work with those who are willing first. Kind of build your cult following, I like to say.
Yep, absolutely. And Michael Fullen, author of The Principle, talks a lot about that, using the group to move the group. It's a great leadership strategy. Also, no appointments, no problem. We talked earlier about being a walker, being a walking coach. And these walkthroughs can be very brief. I had a goal when I was at a single school site to hit every classroom every day. I didn't get to it every day, but I got pretty dang close. And the reason that I was able to do that is because I didn't sit in the classroom for 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. I was only there for 3 to 5 minutes. I now, even sites that I'm not at very much, that I've only have, say, 7 days during the entire year, I've been able to do this. If you build that trust with the teachers and let them know I'm here to support you, and you leave those Post-its or that automated feedback and it's positive and you're helping them and you've got your cult following that's speaking on your behalf, then you're able to do that without a great amount of resistance.
That's right.
So another thing that we can do is automate our appointment booking.
That's right.
As we're scheduling them.
So you can use the appointment slots with Google Calendar. That's one way to do it. Another one I like to do is through, again, using Google Forms, using a Google Forms add-on called Event, actually through Google Sheets, because again, every form will generate a spreadsheet for you. Through Google Sheets, it's an add-on called Event-O-Matic. On my website, I have a form, and then upon submission of, they book the date and time and the information of what service that they want me to provide, and it populates my calendar and their calendar automatically.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about some war stories.
Yeah, this is the most fun part of this session.
Because I know that some of you may be thinking, Katherine, if I start walking classrooms, I just walk into classrooms, even with those that trust me, I'm going to get the deer in the headlights look.
That's right.
Right? And I get it, because if you remember back to what it was like to be a teacher and somebody walked in your classroom, you may have looked the same way, at least at the beginning of your teaching career.
That's right.
So it happens, right? I actually walked into a classroom where a principal was modeling a lesson for a new teacher, and the principal saw me walk in and said, "Oh, I'm not doing any tech today." Well, I'm not just a tech coach. I'm a teacher. I'm an educator. And so that's something that we have to be real clear about, is that we're here to support no matter what it is. We believe in solid pedagogy. We believe in solid instructional practices and student learning. And that doesn't always mean that we're teching everything up. And so that's something that we have to be real clear about from the beginning.
Yeah, it's like the old, I wouldn't say it's old saying, but a big buzzword now is not teaching in silos. Well, in that same vein right there, we shouldn't be putting ourselves in silos. Oh, I'm just the tech coach, so I only deal with tech stuff. Oh, you're the ELA coach, you just do ELA stuff. Or you're a math coach, you have nothing to offer to this subject because it's not math. So that's something you really gotta build, like that awareness that you're not going to be pigeonholed into just technology.
Absolutely.
So one of my favorite war stories starts with the deer in the headlights. And this is actually a recent story. And it's happened many times. But my most recent one came when I was walking through an AP ELA class. And I walked in as a teacher I've never seen before. I know this teacher's he's a total genius when it came to Socratic seminars. I was like, you know what? I want to see how he does it. Maybe I can offer something. Maybe I can take it up a little bit just to make me a better educator, to learn from him. And I walked in, and he just stopped, whoever he was right on the board, and just like stared at me for like 3 seconds with that deer in the headlights look. He says, "Are you here to evaluate me?" I'm like, "Well, I'm wearing a t-shirt and jeans, so it probably wouldn't be the attire to evaluate somebody. But no, I'm just here to learn." Well, what do you want to see? So I want to see what you do, man. I don't want to see anything. I don't want to dog and punish. I just want to see what you do. I'm here to learn. And he's like, okay, well, I'm like, carry on. And I just sat down there and I observed, and eventually he got back to work. But you are going to see that,
especially when you first start this.
Yeah.
The more you do it, the more that they get used to it. They will be less nervous when you come in. They'll be more real, and you'll be able to be a better coach, and they'll be able to be a better mentee, so to speak.
That's right. When I was first semester on the job, we had slowly started getting our journey going one-to-one with Chromebooks, and we were slowly putting Chromebook carts. We didn't have enough to go one-to-one. We were probably more like maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the ratio was. We definitely weren't one-to-one yet. And we had a room where we kept all the Chromebook carts. We had about a dozen on campus. And again, our collection of Chromebook carts was built at the time. And it was my job not only to get them started with Google, but to get people to begin using those Chromebooks. And I was very new on the job, and really I was focusing mainly on the Google part. That was my first mandate, and hadn't really moved too far into the Chromebooks yet. So we had a district walkthrough with the district admin was, walking classrooms, and the superintendent walks into that special room where we kept all the Chromebooks and saw that they were all in there charging. And she's like, they're in there collecting dust. What the heck's going on? We spent thousands of dollars on this. What's going on? And pretty much gave a good talking to the principal there. And the principal had a knee-jerk reaction, and it totally, it was an honest reaction. It was understandable, and I'm sure a lot of people probably would have done the same. But of course, you're going to get kind of talked to by your boss, and you're going to have a knee-jerk reaction. And what the principal told me, all right, that's enough. This is what's going to happen. Adam's going to come back and report to me every week and tell me who's using these Chromebooks, and because they need to be used. I go, whoa, stop. Right there, I could easily, it's a very slippery slope. I could have really lost any trust I've ever gained with teachers because I would have been a rat. I stopped the principal. I go, no, hold on here. I am not going to be your stooge. I know you didn't mean it that way. It was a knee-jerk reaction, but I am not going to sit there and rat on teachers and report to you who's doing what. That's not my job. So I said, listen, I will report to you and say, this is what I've worked with teachers. It's the job of that administrator to get out and see that they're being used. I'll tell you what I've done with them, but I will not give you any names of who's doing what. I'm not the sheriff. That's not my job. And I will lose all trust with teachers if I get pigeonholed into that role. So go ahead.
No, finish your story and then I'll.
So, I think I dodged a bullet there. But again, as a beginning tech coach, again, I learned on my own. There is no manual out there for being a tech coach. There's a lot of books out there on theories of coaching, but really a lot of them are just a bunch of theory, and they're theories based off of someone else's experience where they're from, and we're all different. So as a tech coach, especially, I was just a Google guy. That's what I was gonna do, and as a beginner, I figured, okay, people are as excited about Google as I am. Well, no, they weren't. And I expected to sit in my office and wait for my phone to ring. I was going to get up and I was going to go get Googly with all these teachers and students. And my phone never rang. And I got a little despondent. And I felt down. And what I did one day, I need to see, all right, let's see. I had a theory that if I just sit in my room all day and watch YouTube videos, will anybody know that I'm here? So one day I walked in my office, 8 a.m., sat down, and I literally watched YouTube all day. Just like that cat you see in the picture. I watched YouTube all day, and my phone didn't ring. No one even cared to know if I was even there. And I was like, man, what can I do to get people to reach out to me? And that's kind of one of the driving forces behind what Katherine and I have been trying to develop our whole plan of being a walking coach.
And being a walking coach also lets you know how to leverage teachers to teach each other, particularly when you have those teachers that are a little more resistant. And so if you're not out there walking, you don't know. I know plenty of teachers. I did this as a student where, say it's sit and get PD, or it's, teacher directed instruction, and I would pretend that I was paying attention, but I was totally daydreaming. I'd nod, oh yeah, I'm doing that, right? How many of your teachers do that in your PD? Oh yeah, I already do that. How do you know unless you actually go and walk classrooms? And when you do that, the best thing to do is to find those shining stars, those teachers that are integrating technology effectively, and to start leveraging them as leaders, because you can't be everywhere all at once. But again, if you just wait for your phone to ring, those teachers that are already using it may or may not reach out. They might not feel they need to. And those teachers that are dodging you, so to speak, you can leverage those that are, you now know what, because you've been walking, you now know who to connect together. And so I used the walking coach model to really leverage teachers teaching each other. I would say, hey, I noticed that third grade is doing some great stuff with ELA, and they're using Google Classroom for some academic conversations. Maybe you should talk to them when I'm talking to another grade level. And so a lot of times when teachers hear it from each other instead of from you as the coach, that's really effective as well. So it doesn't always have to be about you doing PDs or you even coaching. Sometimes it's the teachers coaching each other that can also be really effective.
That's right.
So we have some other war stories as well.
Yes.
I did have teachers that would, I'd walk in the classroom, oh good, I have to use the restroom. Now, I'm not saying that that's not sometimes that's fine. And I know sometimes you gotta go, right? But that's also not why we're there.
That's
right? So, that's something that will happen, guaranteed. What about when there's a sub?
Yeah. We're going back to the bathroom.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had a teacher, very well-respected teacher, who really wanted nothing to do with me. But then she kind of knew my schedule was and knew that I was available to cover her while she went pee, because she sold her prep, didn't have a prep. So I would, once in a while, I would indulge her. Okay, go ahead. After I'd done her a couple solids, for lack of a better term, it's kind of like she owed me. So, and then I walked ahead. I suggested something that I knew would work really well with her advanced math students. She's like, well, you know what? Yeah, I want to try that. You know what? She said, I owe you. You've been helping me go to the restroom. So you know what? I'll go ahead and come in. And then she saw how effective it was, and then all of a sudden she kept reaching out. So doing those little solids, here once in a while can pay off. Don't make it a habit.
Right.
Don't let them begin to, I guess, for lack of a better term, use you.
Correct.
But one of the easiest traps to fall in as a coach, not just a tech coach, is they schedule you when they're going to have a sub. Nothing infuriates me more. Will I still jump in? Yes, and I'll do my thing. But I will talk to the principal and to that teacher, separately, saying, hey, I won't drop the name to the principal, but I'll say, hey, you know what, there's been some teachers who have been booking me for a sub. That's not what coaching is. I'm not there to coach a sub. I'm there to coach them with their students. So,
and that's something actually Marvia is, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, is asking right now, is how do you help administrators and school leaders see the role of coach as not an extra coverage body? Sure. We've both experienced that. I experienced the same thing. What I started doing was booking model lessons, so that when they said, oh, we need you to sub today, we didn't have a sub show up, all of a sudden I'd say, oh, I can't, I'm co-teaching today.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't. So I would just get really, and I would go to those teachers. And again, we talked about those teachers that want to work with you. Yeah. I don't care if I have, more, I'm working with those teachers more than others. It's still better than covering for a sub, because I'm not a sub. And we would be pretty expensive subs if that was our job. So anything else you wanted to add on that as far as the communication, admin, and leaders about that?
Another easy trap to get caught into is they book you and they sit down and they go back and they get caught up on grades.
Yep.
That is not what we are here for. We are coaches. We're not coaching the kids in isolation. We're coaching the teacher with the student. And, it's always great to have an extra adult in the classroom. 2 teachers are better than 1 in most cases, and you have to really set that tone early that you're not there to, do something engaging so that they can get caught up on their work. You're there to work with them. They need to be involved in the entire process. So eventually, using a gradual release model, they can do this on their own. But they're grading papers, they're not going to be getting any of that done.
And one of the ways that I think you can do that is making sure that you are involved in the planning process with them. So rather than, I'm going to bring something really cool to your, I'm just going to show you real quick how to use a specific tech tool. Or I'm going to show your kids how to do this specific tool. Instead, planning with the teacher ahead of time and saying, what are you teaching? Great. How about I do this part? How about you do this part? So that it's more of a co-teaching model instead of you running the whole show is going to make it a little harder for them to just sit and grade papers as well.
So one of the things I developed, again, I told you the story about watching YouTube videos all day. That was a low point for me. And, once I had to figure out, how do you get out there to be a walking coach? How are you going to get out there? You have to make yourself offer something of value. Yeah, what your skill set is valuable, but they don't know that. They don't realize it. So the best way to get out there and really get them going is to show them something that's going to make their life easier. And that's why when I developed my whole spiel called Ditch That Copier, I know some of you may be looking at that picture and you're probably thinking, oh, he ripped off Matt Miller and ditched that textbook. Well, maybe a little bit, but this is more kind of just tool based to make you more efficient as an educator, using the variety of tech tools like Doc Hub and Duelist, Classroom, Docs, and a variety of other tools. The copier is like an anchor. The copier takes up so much time. And I remember as a teacher being like, oh, I got to fight for the copier. Oh, I finally get there. Oh, it's out of toner. And I have to pull out the toner cartridge and I have to shake it. And all that black gunk gets everywhere. And then, maybe I get through half of my copies and then it's out of toner again. Or, it gets jammed and you've gone through that convoluted schematic that it shows you and you're taking the thing apart and you still can't find the tiny speck of paper that's jamming it and you've lost, an entire lesson. So when I became a coach, I'm like, all right, this is what I can do. I can show them how to be more paperless, to not depend on that copier. So they'll have more time and be less stressed out. And they can design more empowering learning experiences. So the whole Ditch That Copier thing, which is approved by Matt Miller. He did put that sticker on his laptop. I have a picture of him. He showed me putting it on his laptop, so I'm not ripping the guy off. So, love Matt. He's my favorite Spanish teacher from Indiana.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But when you've done that, Adam, and then somebody says, oh, I have to go make copies. Can you watch my class?
That right there validates what I'm trying to do.
Exactly. Absolutely.
But the real I guess the real powerful part of that is when they come back and tell me, oh man, I was able to design this lesson because it didn't take me so much time. I didn't have to worry about the copier, and I had more time to evaluate their work.
Yes.
I had more time to really be more creative with what I was doing because I wasn't spending all that time fighting for a copy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have a great question here about what do you do with reluctant educators or the ones who always say they're good and in need of nothing, and they don't in need of nothing. They don't need anything. And I'll start with I'll let you answer after a bit as well. But one of the tricks that I used for teachers that said they didn't need anything from me, they're already superstars, and really they are. They're oftentimes good teachers. Those teachers that are haters and want you to fail, what I would do is I would say, oh, you know what? I don't have a class of my own. I want to try something. Honestly, I don't think it's going to work. Can I try something in your class? Well, is that okay? Well, those teachers, they want to see you fail because they don't believe that, this is especially for those teachers that don't believe that technology is better for kids. They think that their way is the best way. They don't want to move forward. And so when they have a chance to have you try something and they think it's not going to work, and then you go in there and show them that it does work with their students, that can make a really big impact. So that's one of the strategies that I've used. Did you want to add on to that, Adam?
Honestly, I've done pretty much similar things. But again, when I get to those teachers, there's no sense in getting into an argument with them.
True.
Because, it's going to be your ego versus their ego, and there's really no good outcome to that. But again, go back to what we talked about earlier. You got to use the group, build the group.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work with the willing first and build that cult following, and really build that buzz. And what I like to do, I like to reward teachers who work with me a lot, and I give them huge shout outs. I'll bring them treats and stuff like that, and that right there kind of opens their eyes. Oh, I want to be part of it. It's like I built that cult following. They want to be part of the quote unquote cult, and eventually we become the cool kids, and they want to see what the whole thing's about. And that's the best way to. Again, it takes time. It's not going to happen quickly. It might take you a year or two before you get those teachers on board, but eventually, once everybody else is on board with it, they feel left out.
The other thing I would say that I've noticed that's really powerful is the more people, like Adam was saying, the more people that you have that are using technology and using you as a coach and using your strategies, the students start talking.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's really powerful is when the students say to that teacher, hey, why don't we just use Google Classroom? Hey, why can't you just send us that in a PDF form and we can annotate it on DocHub? If the students start saying things like that, hey, you don't have to, hey teacher so-and-so, why do you spend all this time copying? In my other class, I do X, Y, and Z. When the kids start saying it, and then when maybe even the parents, depending on your demographics, start saying similar things, that's powerful. This was really exciting. I was in a district where I was working with a K-2 school, where they had a K-2 school, and then they also have a 3-5 school. And so I went into one of the 5th grade classrooms where this teacher, I'd never been in their classroom before. They'd gone through the PDs, but that particular site, I hadn't done much in classrooms yet, whereas at the K-2 I did. So I'm in this 5th grade classroom, and the teacher hears a student comes up to both of us. I'm talking with the teacher, and a student comes up, a 5th grader, and says, oh, Ms. Goyette, I know how to do this because my brother taught me. I said, how old's your brother? 1st grade. And that teacher realized, wow, 1st graders are doing this, and I'm not doing this with my 5th graders. So sometimes the student voice can be very powerful in moving those resistant teachers.
And I had a similar experience because when I first started the job, I was mainly working with the middle school. And when I got to high school, it was I had to start over. It was, starting from scratch. And slowly but surely, the kids started coming in with all these skills, and they weren't. And the teachers of the high school were not leveraging these kids. Like they came in expecting, okay, where's my Chromebook, Google Classroom, doing something digital, and you're handing them a whole packet of paper. They're wondering why aren't these kids doing the work? Well, because the kids have, they've kind of grown up with this, and you're not leveraging it. So again, when it comes from the kids, it's really hard for any teacher to say no.
And that's actually a strategy that I've done in a couple districts where I've really hit the younger students hard, and it's affecting the teachers that are teaching those older grade levels. Sometimes high schools, I would say, is probably working with the teachers. Sometimes you get the most resistance. Would you pretty much find that across the board? And so by using the strategy of getting those younger students going first, that's actually been a pretty effective strategy. We kind of stumbled across that on accident, but it's been awesome.
A big win I had recently, just in a similar vein here, is I had trouble over the last couple of years really breaking into our science department at the high school. And I've been starting a big push with sketch notes, and I've gotten it through history class and some of the ELA classes, and the middle school classes we're working on it. But the science, sketchnoting is such a great tool for strategy for science. It's so dynamic and visual, and kids can really engage with it. And I got one teacher. I finally got a teacher drinking the Kool-Aid, jumping on the bandwagon, and loving it. And then her kids were bragging to the school about how, on my website, I will feature the best students, the best student-generated sketch notes. They were bragging about it, and the buzz started. So other teachers, hey, I heard these kids are talking about your website and getting. And then I explained, I go, yeah, well, let's do a demo. Let's try it out. And from one teacher, I got 5 out of 6 science teachers in that department totally jumped on the sketch notes bandwagon.
Absolutely. So again, that's kind of like using the group to move the group, but doing it with the students.
Starting with the kids.
Yeah, and building that momentum. All right, this is our last slide. We've got a couple more minutes here, about 4 more minutes.
We want to leave you with this slide here, and you're like, okay, what's with all the gangster rappers here? But there is one common thread in all 4 of these pictures. And if you're not very familiar with this genre of music, the person you see in common in all 4 pictures is a man named Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre is one of the most talented musical artists, whether you like hip hop or not, ever. And he is up there. He's an amazing businessman. He has that Midas touch. Whatever he turns to turns to gold. And what you see here, we'll start going clockwise from the top left. You see Dr. Dre, one of his first, I guess you could call proteges, was Snoop Dogg, one of the most famous rappers ever. Even your grandma probably knows who he is. He's that famous. And what you see when Snoop first came out with Dre, he blew up. He was huge. And he's been huge. And then the thing is, his most critically acclaimed work came when he was working with Dr. Dre. You ask anybody who's an expert on this kind of music, and they'll say his best work came when he worked with Dr. Dre. Moving clockwise to the right, you see Dr. Dre and Eminem. Eminem's another big-time name. But when he worked with Dr. Dre, his most critically acclaimed work and classic work came while working with him. He's been successful since he stopped working with Dre full-time. But when he was full-time with Dre, his music was by far the most well-received. And that goes down bottom right, we see Dr. Dre again with another protege, 50 Cent. Again, his best work came under Dr. Dre's tutelage. And moving over to the left, again, Dr. Dre and another protege called The Game. His best work, again, came while working with Dr. Dre. So why are we showing you all these Dr. Dre pictures? Because a good coach can really enhance the many talents of any teacher.
That's right. And it's through coaching.
That's right.
It's not through Dre say he's working with them.
Dre did not write their lyrics. He didn't do the work for them. He worked with them. He recognized what their rhyme style is like and their flow,
their strengths,
and really built up these beats that enhanced them. So he had to really work with them and befriend them before he could actually, produce these great pieces of music. Absolutely.
We have a couple more minutes, and we have one more question that was posed in the Zoom chat. Sorry, I'd missed that. It says, what do you recommend if you're in a system that's more about the test than the wholeness of the students, and how do we coach beyond that? That's a tricky one.
That's a tough question.
It is.
I have a quick war story for that.
Okay.
When I first started coaching, we bought Chromebooks just because that's what was going to be used for testing.
True.
And the first year that the kids took the online test, they bombed it. And it wasn't for bad teaching. The kids didn't know it. They just didn't really know how to use the format of the online test. So I started developing different little strategies and tools for kids to start really improving their skills on just navigating the Chromebook and the hand-eye coordination and the dexterity with using the trackpad.
The split screen.
Yeah, splitting the screens, dragging and dropping. And what I did, just by having them do a lot of that kind of work throughout the year with their regular lessons, scores improved just because of that.
True.
And this familiarity with that. So I think that's the best way I can answer it. There is no one magic bullet to answer that question.
Yeah, I will say that I tried really hard to I don't believe in one standardized test I hate that, and yet it is a reality that we live in, and sometimes you get a lot more clout when you find a way to raise those test scores with quick little tricks like Adam is saying. I know we do a lot with the split screen is overwhelming, especially for third graders on SBAC, and so we've done a lot with that, and that helps. Because once you've made an impact with what matters to that administrator or to that system, then they give you more leeway to work on the whole child. Right. So I would say, unfortunately, it does matter in some cultures, and so try to do all you can with that. I know that we are in a room that someone else is going to be joining in real quick, so I think we're going to have to close out here. Let me stop sharing the screen here. But we definitely want to thank everyone for being here. Yep. Thank you for all of the, there's more comments on here. There we go, perfect. So thanks so much. Feel free to connect with us on Twitter, go to our websites, and we look forward to, and there's the link to our presentation. We look forward to connecting with you.
Yes.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
All right.
you.